Ready? Okay, so what needs to happen first is if you get a hint at all or in rounds that we're going to be proning this patient or they're talking about it, then get the docs or get an order into physical therapy stat. And it has to say prone in the comments so that it's highlighted. You can't just do that. You need to call down to the office, 72450, it's all on here. And on weekends, call PASS to get a hold of the physical therapist so that we can get down there as quickly as possible to do a head and neck and shoulder and full range of motion assessment to see if that we can even truly prone. But we're only here till about 4 in the afternoon. We're here every day of the year, but only till 4 in the afternoon. So if this has to happen at night, then neck range of motion, shoulder range of motion needs to be assessed with the physician, but likely with the nurses guiding. So I've given you handouts, and it also will be in the prone box of what is normal neck range of motion, what is normal shoulder range of motion. So I'm just going to show you that first. And Brett, the last session, brought up a good, I'm just really showing you rotation, but you take the pillows out and you have neutral neck extension. Okay, we don't have to get into full neck extension, which is 45 degrees, but as long as we have neutral, then we're pretty good. But what we're mostly concerned about is rotation. Normal neck rotation, this is neutral, is 90 degrees all the way over. Okay, even beyond that a little bit. So to get into safe position with proning, we have to have at least 45 degrees, half of that, on both directions. Okay, so what needs to happen is we need to get physical therapy order, we need to assess for range of motion, but what needs to happen before that is patients need to be put on paralysis. Because I can do a neck range of motion off of paralysis, but I might get some muscle tension and not get full range of motion. So if I get full range of motion without paralysis, we're probably good to go. We're still going to go on paralysis for proning. But if we don't have full range of motion with neck with paralysis, then we need to go on to paralysis, because then if I get a stop and we're paralyzed, then it's a bony block. And if we turn the patient into improper position with prone, we could snap the neck. So this is a decision point that we're not getting it if you're doing it or PT's doing it. I've certainly had a patient last year that was in 5 degrees of rotation to the right. I brought the attending in and said, this is what I've got, and we didn't prone the patient. So there are ways. I'm not saying that I'm going to say stop proning, you guys aren't going to say stop proning. It really needs to be the physician point, because it may be the last ditch effort and we have to go into prone and we have to somehow modify it, which we did with another patient last year that I wasn't getting full range of motion, but it was a disaster once we got them into prone, trying to get them into a good position without putting the ET tube directly down their throat beyond their carina. So it just forces it, because if you don't have good position, the patient's face ends up into the bed, and then it's just a problem. So neck range of motion with PT or without PT has to happen. Shoulder range of motion is important. We should get to 90 degrees to successfully put them in the positions that we want to, but it's not imperative. If we don't get 90 degrees of flexion, we can always keep the arms at the side and just rotate head and neck during the every 2-hour change of position. But if we can, we want to assess that, because we don't want to crank them up if they're not getting full range of motion, especially if it's a bony block in their shoulder. Get a good history. Talk to patients' families, because we're finding that the history isn't in. Patients come in emergently, they're intubated. We can't talk to them. Talk to the family, because the guy that we have downstairs, we're now finding out has had terrible neck problems, has been using TENS on his neck for quite a while, and now he has a huge neck problem post-proning, and he's turned to the left and really tight, and I can barely get him into neutral now. And it happened at night, and we didn't do a range of motion assessment, and whether it happened with proning or not, I can't say for sure, but now we have issues. So the docs are saying, when we started this protocol, why do we need to do neck range of motion? It's not anywhere in the literature. Yeah, we're going to save lives by putting prone, but I'm looking at it as after the fact. a 30-something-year-old, 40-something-year-old who has the flu, that has ARDS, shouldn't have to go to rehab because now they can't move their arms because we have a brachial plexus injury from putting their arms in wrong position, or now we have a neck injury. So I'm trying to solve problems that happen later on down the road. Again, it's up to the physicians, are we going to go into prone or not? So neck range of motion first. We're ordering a Citadel bed now, not the prone bed, not the Triadyne bed, because we're going to try this bed. If a patient is too large, you can get a Citadel Plus. But you want to do a neck range of motion first before we get them onto that bed. Because if we say no to prone, then we don't want to waste our time going on to that bed. But all of this stuff has to happen simultaneously. Call physical therapy, get a range of motion, get them on paralysis, and get a bed here. If a bed is not available and we have to go into prone, then at least we have to get an air mattress on the bed. We have to have a floating surface. We can't have them on a regular mattress. So if your bed is just not available and not getting to you, get a mattress overlay, put that on the bed at least, and then we can get them on the proper bed when we get them into supine the next day, hopefully. ET tube holder, okay? So if this type of ET tube holder is not on your patient, respiratory needs to be in there and swapping it over. And we've had problems in the past where patients been taped and the therapist said, yeah, it's fine, it's secure, it's good. I don't know much about ET tube holders. And now we put the person into prone, they start drooling, tape gets wet, and now ET tube is moving. And you have to readjust it in prone, which I'm sure is not an easy task to do. So this is the best ET tube holder that we found. It has not caused any breakdown that we've seen. So all of this has been working really nicely. So this should be changed over if it's not already on your patient. Okay. So now we're going to go right into the process. So I'm going to have 2 respiratory therapists come up here and at least 3 nurses on each side to practice.